Now, you're probably gaining an opinion on the policy of appeasement. The policy of appeasement is basically the idea of giving Hitler what he wants to avoid war. If Hitler demands something that is, unacceptable, breaking the Treaty of Versailles, bad, to avoid the loss of life and to avoid war, we'll give it to him for now. That was the policy that lots of countries in Europe were following, particularly Britain and France. Now, you can have your own opinion, that's fine, but the best opinion to have is to have to know both sides before you do anything else. There have been exam questions in the past that have literally asked, was the policy of appeasement a good idea, yes or no? And therefore, you need to know the reasons why appeasement was a good idea, and also the reasons why appeasement was a bad idea, which gives you an even playing field to make up your own mind. I'm going to try and explain a few of these ideas firstly. I'm going to go with the reasons why first. Appeasement was, to be honest, the most logical plan that anyone, especially Britain and France, could have made in the 1930s. The thing is, in the 1930s was the Great Depression. You remember this, right? Pretty much the entire world was poor. These countries did not have crazy military weapons. It cost money to fund militaries. You have to pay the soldiers, don't you? So appeasing Hitler avoided war. It pushed the possibility of fighting Hitler back and away from, shall we say, the loss of life. This meant that they had time to rearm their country and basically be ready for a war with Hitler so that they can be prepared to fight him when the time is right. Not over the remilitarization of the Rhineland, for example, where they had not enough soldiers to fight him. Now, a lot of these things tied together with the fact that Hitler's actions so far have always been justified. The Rhineland was a gap in his defences, and he said he was defending himself, Franco-Soviet pact, but also Anschluss, there was a plebiscite that was held, and the people agreed. Those do sound like logical reasons, and nothing to go over to war with, to be honest. It's not worth going to war with some of these things, and a lot of people had this opinion that the Treaty of Versailles was, it's an old document now, it's 15, 20 years old. We can change some of those rules now, can't we? Now, another big one, the reasons why on appeasement, is about communism. I'm not going to get into the details on communism to start because it is more confusing than you need to know, but essentially, Britain and France were capitalist countries that didn't like communism. In fact, they didn't want communism near them. If a communist appeared in Britain, they'd be arrested for basically being crazy. They thought communism was a bad idea and they didn't want anyone to hear about it. See, Hitler was also anti-communist, so they thought if we let Hitler become strong, he can block communism from coming close to our countries, therefore none of our people will be affected by communism. Sick. That was a genuine reason for appeasement. See, the negatives of appeasement directly correlate to why the Second World War began. See, when they appeased Hitler, they also gave Hitler more time. They gave him more time as well as more power. They gave Hitler the Rhineland to remilitarize, to prepare, to set his traps, to set armies, to train people. They gave him Anschluss so that he had more people suddenly, and more money, and more military power. It basically meant that Hitler was becoming stronger and stronger, and they were just giving him the methods to become stronger. Adding logs to the fire, you might say. And as well as that, while the fire was small, we could imagine, they didn't snuff it out. Hitler was weak at the time of the remilitarization of the Rhineland, and they chose not to get involved, which did have, should we say, a long-running effect on whether Hitler was strong enough at 1939 when the war begins. As well as this, it was morally wrong. It wasn't right to appease Hitler. Hitler was breaking laws. He was threatening people. He was using his army to threaten people in Austria. Those people did not want to rejoin Germany, really, did they? 99% is an almost impossible metric. Some people had to rejoin Germany out of their choice, and those people were left to it by Britain and France. Britain and France had made an agreement to stop them with the Treaty of Versailles, and they chose not to. And as well as that, it alienated the USSR. This will come back to bite Britain and France later, but the USSR was the Soviet Union, or Russia as we call it nowadays. This area of the world wanted to be involved with Britain and France in going against Hitler. But the thing is, when Britain and France allowed Hitler to become more powerful, it meant that the USSR saw them as funding an enemy. Now, I don't know about you, but if you saw someone on the playground giving stuff to someone you hate, it's unlikely you're going to be their friend, are you? These things all culminate together later on with the causes of the Second World War. But if you know why appeasement might be a good idea, why appeasement might be a bad idea, aiming to have about 3 reasons each. You should be able to define appeasement in your own words and figure out what side of the argument that you're on yourself. If you can know all of those things, you will know, well, was appeasement a good or a bad idea or not? So anyways, rather than me blabbering on and losing my train of thought, go find the answers to those questions. There's textbook pages that cover both sides. There's this video and your own writing and lessons. Find it all, look it up. You'll be able to do it. All right, good luck. See you later.